Hey there, have you been to an auction before? If you have, then you probably be familiar with the concept of announcing big numbers. So, what is the biggest number you can think of? Is it 1 billion or 1 trillion? Is it a Google, which is 1 followed by 100 digits of zeros? A Googleplex perhaps, 1 followed by a Google of zeros? Or is it a Googleplexian, 1 followed by a Googleplex of zeros? Eventually, you'll reach a problem. You'll realize that you can always add 1 to any number you can think of. And this is where infinity comes in. See, infinity is not a number, but a concept, an idea of something so big it has no boundaries, bigger than all these numbers. And like all things with no boundaries, they don't really exist. We call them axioms, things we establish are true simply because we stated that they are. And these axioms come with very interesting rules and quirks. For example, 1 plus 1 is 2, but infinity plus in 1 will still be infinity because infinity goes on forever, and adding 1 to it won't make a difference. Infinity divided by 2 is still infinity. And how can we prove that? All we have to do is to grab a set of infinite amounts of even numbers. So let's call this set B, and a set of infinite amounts of odd and even number. Let's call this set A. And compare them. Well, your first initial thought would be that set A is double the size of set B. I mean, it has more elements. But that's not true. It is denser, yes, but not bigger. All we have to do is to grab the elements of set B and match them up in correspondence to the elements of set A, and you'll still end up with infinite amount of even numbers to match up with the elements of set A, therefore proving that infinity divided by 2 is still infinity. You are probably familiar with the saying that some infinities are bigger than others. Well, that is not entirely false either. Uncountable infinities are bigger than countable infinities. This is an example of countable infinity. We have whole numbers such as 1, 2, 3, and so on, and integers such as 0, 1, -1, 2, -2, and so on. And also, we can create an infinitely huge rectangle of fractions. But if they are infinitely huge, and we can't count them row by row, because if we do it that way, we'll never reach the second row. How are we supposed to count them? And how can they be called countable infinity? Well, here's a way. You can count them diagonally. So, you can do this. That way, we can ensure that each fraction is inside one of these diagonals, and therefore we can count this infinity. Believe it or not, the infinity between 0 and 1 is actually greater than all of the countable infinity. How can we prove that? Well, assuming that we can list all of the decimals. We can't, but let's assume that. And arrange them in this manner. Match them with countable infinity, so infinite of them. And then circle the first decimal of the first row, second of the second, third of the third, and so on. And then change their figure. We would create a whole new type of decimal that's not anywhere in this list, that's not matched by any of the countable infinity, and therefore proving that uncountable infinity, such as decimals, are actually greater than countable infinity.